All right, good evening, everybody. City of Clear Lake Shores City Council regular meeting, November 2nd, 2021 at 6:31. Everybody's here except for Mr. Steve Wirtis, so we do have a quorum. Item number 2, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the Texas flag. Go Stros. All right, we'll do item 3, reports from council. Councilman Steve Wirtis is absent. Councilman Rick Fisher.
Just a couple of quick things. Have not had a recent meeting with the Parks and Pool Committee. They've got another one scheduled for Monday, November 8th. At that time, they're going to be doing a lot of the planning for doing all of the Christmas decorations and getting those all set up. And also just found out, want to pass on a quick congratulations to one of our workers, Odie. Apparently, he made it through and became a U.S. citizen this past week, which I think is phenomenal. I've got a good friend of mine that went through that, and I know the hoops that you have to jump through to be able to do that. So, congratulations to him.
Yep, very cool. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Councilwoman Monica Leday.
I don't have anything to report.
Thank you, Ms. Leday. Councilman Alex Scanlon.
I have no report.
Thank you, Mr. Scanlon. Councilman Randy Cronister.
Roads and Drainage met, but I believe Brent probably knows a little more about this. Aren't they supposed to start this week on the road? Yes. Given that weather cooperates? Yeah, so they're going to be doing that on Juniper from Clear Lake Road over, so I'm sure we'll have notices out or whatever, so everybody knows, stay away. Go Astros. Cougars.
Go Cougars, yeah.
Go Cougs.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cronister. I just have a couple items for myself. Mr. Saniga's here, Chief Saniga from the Kemah Fire Department. I want to congratulate him. I know he's going to talk about it, but our great Clear Lake Shores went from an ISO rating of a 4 to a 2. So that's an awesome job on y'all's part, putting all together. That's great for everything in our city. Thank you. Great turnout at the barbecue cook-off. The weather held out to the end, literally, and then it dumped all over us. Also heard that we made over $10,000, and it was great work by all the volunteers that showed up, all the cooks, different teams and the participants, and especially all the volunteers that came out to volunteer. It was a pretty good crew. I think we served over 240 plates of barbecue, so that's a good job. And just a reminder, on November 20th, we do have the Bay Area Heart Walk for the Mayors with Heart. Hopefully y'all come out and join the team. First 25 that register get a free shirt, sponsored by the Massey's, and be interested in seeing everybody out there. Item number 4 for staff reports, Police Department Chief Keel.
Good evening. I have the October stats. Got a little ahead of myself. October stats for Clear Lake Shores Police Department. We conducted 382 traffic contacts. We made 2 DWI arrests, 12 narcotics offenses, 3 burglaries, 2 assaults, 2 thefts. We made 52 arrests. That's including warrant arrest. 3 assisting other agencies. 19 residential checks and 528 business checks. I did receive today a resignation letter from Officer Jordan Reyes, who's taken a position with the Galveston Police Department. I just got that moments ago. So we'll be looking. Number one, we want to wish him well, wish him luck, and we'll be looking to fill that position as quickly as possible.
Yep, hate to see Mr. Reyes leave us, but probably some better things out there too. So, All right, next is, building official Kevin Harrell. He's absent. Do you wanna speak on his behalf, Mr. Spear?
Yes, Kevin is, he's out at training. He'll return on Thursday. Tomorrow's his last day of training in Austin. As far as updates, I've been doing minor inspections for items within the city, keeping him abreast of what's going on there and stay in contact with him. On the demolition orders for 419 Oak and 922 Elm, spoke with the contractor today. They are waiting, they're waiting on weather, and we'll plan on starting demolition either late this week, early next. Just depends on how much water we get, because they'll do more damage trying to get into them to tear them down. He had considered starting last Saturday, but reconsidered, thinking it was a weekend and didn't want to inconvenience a lot of people, so I appreciate that from him. That's all I have for Kevin's report.
Thanks, Mr. Spear. Next is, Clear Lake Shores, Kema Volunteer Fire Department Chief Rob Saniga.
Thank you guys very much. Okay, for October, there was a total of 45 calls for service. Our average response time for EMS calls were 2 minutes, 56 seconds. And fire calls, the response time, 3 minutes and 27 seconds. Our shoot time overall stayed right at 1 minute and 14 seconds. Calls in Clear Lake Shores for a total of 8. One was a building fire, but it was that was at the Target. It was a little fire above one of the light fixtures. The rest were medical calls for service and automatic alarms. The ISO rating, we're still, so Clear Lake Shores is for sure a 2. We have not gotten the grade back for the city of Kema yet. It could be tomorrow or 2 months from now. So once it comes in, then we'll be sounding it even louder. But Clear Lake Shores is a solidified 2. So that puts us with 332 or 322 other departments in Texas have an ISO of 2, and 1,789 out of the country. So that's really good. That's with the people at the station and a really good water supply. So I thank you everybody for getting me all the information. I know we were quite a pain for a little while, but it's just about over. So yeah, we'll be good for another 10 years.
Well, thank you for that, Chief, and great job on getting all that paperwork in. I know it's a big job to do all that. All right, next is Galveston County Health District, Amy Weber, not present, and then City Administrator Brent Spear.
Hello, I did submit a written report. All the details are in that. The highlights, return the drawings for Shell Bottom Park, waiting confirmation that those changes have been made, and we'll reevaluate that design when it comes back. Lowell Brown Fishing Pier, if you've been out looking at sunsets, you've noticed that there's a lot of activity up there. It's a giant mud bowl, and they are making progress. About 50% of the bulkhead is in and anchored, and then they will, once that's completed, they'll start working on the wooden superstructure and the composite decking. Daniel Drawer Avenue attended a pre-con meeting last week. Notice to proceed will be on November 15th, and that project will run 150 days, and that is actually a Galveston County project, and we are a partner with that. So there has been one change order for a 44-foot arm versus a 40-foot arm for the traffic signal, and it is going to result in a upcharge of just over $6,000. So but that is the only anticipated cost. I think it was because of sourcing issues. They were going to have to wait a lot longer, and they could go with a bigger piece to complete it. State Road 146 continues, and I'm working with a vendor to get the backhoe refurbished. That's moving forward, and that will be under budget, and probably somewhere in the neighborhood of under budget by 50% of what we estimated, so that'll be good. And as Councilman Cronister had mentioned, roads and drainage. We'll be having road repairs starting probably later this week. We will have an independent subcontractor that'll be an inspector on that job that's not affiliated either with our engineer company or the paving company, and he'll provide a report, and he will also be the voice in the field and speak on behalf of the city and be able to make adjustments. It's someone with 40 years of experience in paving and construction. So we're happy to work with him. Also, the full depth reclamation on Juniper will affect some residents. I believe Kevin was working towards notification of them to help them out on where to park and how long that will be torn up while that's being done. So it should only affect a couple homes. But please be patient with all the construction. We'll have demolition taking place, and we'll have road work taking place, and we'll have some drainage work taking place. So just be aware that there's going to be big trucks and potentially some messes, and we'll get them cleaned up and roads opened as soon as possible. That's it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Spear. Next is item 5, public comments. At this time, any person with city-related business may speak to the city council. Topic of discussion must be consistent with an item listed on the agenda in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. City council may not deliberate. Comments from the public should be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per individual. Anybody like to speak to council at this time? Having none, we'll go to item number 6, consent agenda. Does any council member like to have an item pulled from the consent agenda? Having none, is there any objections to the consent agenda? Having none, the consent agenda is accepted as in the packet. Item number 7, new business. Discussion and possible action may be taken on the following items. Item A is appoint 3 members of the Economic Development Corporation due to term expirations and resignation. New terms will expire October 31st of 2023. And we had 3 folks submit their names. Ronnie Richards, who else was in there? Jesse, Mark Atherton. Yeah, but they were short cycled because we keep to the terms.
I'll motion to appoint Mark Atherton, Ronnie Richards, and Jesse Young happily after so many attempts. Thank you for continuing to apply to the EDC.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Mr. Scannell, second by Mr. Cronister. Any discussion? Having none, all in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Having none, motion passes with 4. 1 absent. Item number 7, item B, adoption of employee paid quarantine leave policy as required by House Bill 2023-21-22 session. Mr. Spear.
Hello again. This is House Bill 2073 from the 87th Legislative Session, 2021. This is in response to COVID and also what they call communicable diseases. So it includes some other things in there. We're at the tail end of the COVID, I'm hopeful. However, this was put in place for first responders who didn't have a choice of not going to work and putting themselves in harm's way. So it's firefighters, EMS, and police officers. And this passed by a vote of 146 yeses. I think there was 1 no vote and then 3 abstaining. They may have been members of fire departments or something. And so based on that, it was signed on the law immediately on June 15th. And as that went through the different iterations, I didn't think it was going to apply to us due to size, but as it turns out, it was made a required policy statewide. So that's why I'm bringing this forward. And it would be retroactive to that date. And we have a small department, and so it's the right thing to do. It was actually authored by Senator Bonin, so a local representative among about 12 or 13 others. So I'd recommend adoption of that policy, so we can get that in the book. It only applies to the police officers in this case.
I'll make a motion to adopt the employee paid quarantine leave policy as written, or submitted.
I second that.
Motion by Mr. Fisher, second.
So this has come up in 3 different meetings in a way, and we never really talked about it, so put it on the agenda so you could give us some information, sir, if you don't mind. And part of the reason this is coming up is we're due some cars. I know I was riding by 2 separate cars that sound like they're about to drop the motor on the concrete. So
That's how we tell they're running. If you can't hear the motor running, then we don't know if it's running or not. So in the interest of time, I know we got a pretty big event going on tonight, and I don't want to keep anybody any longer than I have to, so I'm just going to kind of run over this real quick, try to answer any questions you might have. But as the Chief of Police, I made a pledge to you early on that I would be fiscally responsible, and I would make good decisions, and I would tell you the truth, whether or not it was pretty. The truth is, it's ugly. It's very ugly. It's ugly in the fact that what Mr. Chronister brought up was the fleet is aging and it's about to fall apart. We put Band-Aids on it, and we put tourniquets on it, and we do resuscitation on occasions. Doesn't get any better. We have cars that were purchased in 2013. The latest car, which is what is assigned to me, was purchased in 2019, not delivered until 2020, early in 2020. So we're down some cars, and the cars that we have are starting to act up. There's only one car that we have that's under warranty, which is mine, and the rest of the cars, if there's a major component failure or something expensive breaks, it's ours to own. So we started looking at replacing fleet. I know there was a policy just before Chief Cook left that addressed replacement of cars and rotation of replacement of cars, and we had a lot going on. The pandemic kind of dropped in on us, and we didn't really meet that at this point so far. We do have currently two cars that are due for rotation. We have one car that's near due for rotation. By the time we ordered it and got it in, it would be due for rotation, and it just gets worse and worse as we go on. So to summarize that, we need to buy new cars. I looked at several options for doing that. We have looked at purchasing cars through grants, through the HGAC. That is kind of a hit and miss. If you apply for 10 cars, you might get 4. There's no guarantees with the Houston-Galveston Area Council. So I started looking at other ways, alternatives to doing that was a lease program. And there's several kinds of leases. There's lease to purchase, and there's the lease program that I'm going to present to you tonight. Just briefly stated, the cost associated with leasing these vehicles is not too far off from where we would be spending to buy new vehicles. However, a lot of the major component failures would be handled by the warranty or Enterprise Leasing, which is the only company I found that had anything that was close to what we needed to do. So I looked at the cost to get in, the cost of getting out of the vehicles that we're in, because we have equipment that belongs in a Tahoe. We're looking at Ford Explorers to get into, and that's because of availability. There's a lot of things that led us or directed us towards the Ford Explorer. All that being said, we need to upgrade just about everything we have, and partially, or doing a partial fleet replacement doesn't work, because in this program that we looked at through Enterprise, they want to give us equity in everything we've got, take all that away, give us an entire new fleet, and in doing that, we would be able to get a larger number of cars all at one time and pay it out over time, instead of dumping $60,000 or $55,000 in 10 cars for a total of $550,000. We would be able to get into 10 cars at about $126,000 for the first year, and then monthly payments as it goes after that. The total cost of 10 cars roughly breaks down to $32,000 per car over the 4-year lease program. Purchasing the car breaks down to roughly $50,000 a car over a 4-year program. The only difference is at the end of that 4 years, we own those cars that we purchased, and what to do with those, versus the lease program that replaces those cars. We now get new cars with a warranty, just like the ones that they delivered to us. The equipment rotates, and all those costs are absorbed. There is an upfront cost of approximately $41,000 to get the program going, and then over the year's period of time, we would pay an additional $80,000 thereabouts to make the monthly payments. The reason I say thereabouts is because as we drive these cars daily, the equity goes down, and they would have to adjust that equity that they've already allowed us in the process that we've been through. That goes down, so the payments would go up. There is an exigency in replacing these cars because, as Mr. Cronister said, and a lot of you have heard the cars drive by your house in the middle of the night. It might have woke you up. It's a dire situation with the cars. I don't know much more than what we're doing now, which is checking the oil twice a day and driving them as gingerly as possible. But we lost one in a pursuit. One is well over 125,000 miles. So the situation doesn't change itself. And so in telling you the truth is, we have to spend this money at some point. How you choose to spend that money is really your decision. All I can do is bring you the information, and I can try to answer any questions you might have. However, some of those are going to be estimates based on the floating numbers are based on the equity that they give us and what the price of the car is when we actually order them.
Now, one question I've got for you, just the numbers they've got here, I guess, over a 4-year program. How long do they guarantee those for? So let's say we do it, we get cars, and then after 4 years we get, I guess, 10 new ones to go with it.
Yes.
Are those numbers going to be good for that continuing 4 years, or do they reevaluate it every time we get new vehicles?
The price, the MSRP will change. What won't change is we won't have an upfront cost every time. So we'll pay the initial upfront cost getting into the program. We'll pay the monthly payments just like we would if we made payments on a loan from the bank. And then when we get new cars, they pick up the old car, bring us new car, we order new cars, and we just continue that monthly payment. The only difference would be is if we had to purchase something else, say the body style changed or something broke, radio went out or cameras went out, something like that. Those things are, you can't really plan for them, but you can understand that may occur.
That's going to be a cost we're going to incur anyway, no matter what way we go. If we have a radio fail or a camera fail, we still have to replace it. So. Yes,
sir. So I think the question is, do we want to own the asset at the end of the lease? And I will tell you that there are pros and cons to that. Yes, you have an asset. However, that asset depreciates daily. And after you drive those things for a while, it's kind of hard to get rid of them. I've got one sitting under the building over there that we can't get rid of. Or we would get probably, I think we got $1,000 for the last one. And I think that one was probably better than this one. We couldn't get the window up for a long time. Had to steal parts off of the one that's been wrecked.
What happens if one's wrecked?
We have TML insurance, and we have the insurance of other person involved, assuming it's just our fault and we have to pay the cost, and we have insurance coverage for our vehicles.
So is all this including turning in all of our cars? And then what about the one that was wrecked?
The one that was wrecked is a separate, it was included in this, and we're gonna have to make an adjustment on that. But that one is gonna be covered under the other party's insurance for replacement. We will hopefully take that money and absorb it into the program.
Do you know how much that's gonna be about?
The adjuster has to look at it and tell us what they'll allow for it. We also have to go remove all of our equipment out of it, which we can't do yet, so.
And what's the lead time for the lease cars versus purchased cars?
The time for delivery, it varies based on the source where you get the car from. Going through Enterprise, they have resources. They have cars that are located all over the United States. They have vendors that they regularly go to. They actually steered us a little bit towards the Explorer because it's a little easier to get. The chips are more readily available than the ones for Chevrolet. And if we order it ourselves and purchase the car, I'm being told 7-8 months, and that's a very conservative estimate.
And what is it for the lease, you think?
I'm sorry?
What do you think it is for the lease?
He's telling us between 3 and 4 months, but there's no guarantee to that. That's based on what he knows today.
Right.
Does this include integration of our body cam system that we just updated, or dash cam system, or would we have to convert to whatever system they install in their lease cars?
We would install our recently purchased camera systems. We would have to purchase another camera system for another car. We bought 5 camera systems. At the time we had 5 cars that were running. So the radios would transfer over, the laptops would transfer over. The only thing we'd have to purchase would be the docking stations, and the lights, graphics, Giotto desk, rear seat, cage for the back, for the partition from the front to the back seat. All that comes with the car, and it's in the purchase price.
Take out the rear seat.
Are they giving us a discount when you're doing the fleet versus if we bought 4 cars and had them done ourselves for tricking them out like?
Yeah, so if we bought 4 cars, we would have to negotiate with the dealer to either take the cars on trade-in or sell them outright. I think the best option would be to sell them outright. However, finding maybe an auction that could run them through, or not a lot of individual buyers are gonna buy those as soon as they get into them.
So I mean, like the lights, the cage, all that stuff you're talking about, they're gonna come to us with all of that. We're just gonna have to put the laptops and the radios and the
That's
camera
correct.
system in, and that's it.
Well,
So
we're having a service put them on. Right?
yeah,
Yeah, the lease program through Enterprise, they have certain vendors that they work through. We actually went out on our own and got quotes, and it just so happened that our quote came from the same place that they use. So it kind of worked out, but the cars with the basic equipment will come to our place. Then we will have to add our radio in, add our camera system in. Safety Vision has already told us that they'll come do those. There's some costs that are incurred during that time. However, it's considerably less than taking them out now and then putting them into a car that we buy when it gets here. The transition between those cars is also difficult. We buy new cars, we have to have something to drive in the meantime. If they take our car from us before we're ready, we don't have anything to drive. So we're going to have to schedule that and kind of manipulate the days that the cars come and go.
Is the cost reflected in here in your prices for the transition?
I'm sorry.
Is it to get the equipment placed in the cars?
No, that is the lease program only. That's the cost of getting the cars from Enterprise to here, and the cost of the equipment that they install. We have an upfitter in Baycliff, Texas Select Upfitters, who bills us later. He does not have a bid ready for us. We don't know at this time exactly what we're gonna be doing. We are gonna move radios from other cars into the new cars and put converters for the admin cars. We'll just use our handheld radio. So there's really no way to estimate that. He can't give us an estimate until we know exactly what we're gonna end up getting.
So would you use capital funds for the outfitting then? Is that Brent?
Yeah, I think that's what we'd have to do.
Okay.
Whether we lease or buy, we still have those costs though, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Upfront cost to outfit the final.
Yes. And like I tried to explain earlier, it's an ugly thing to consider all this, but it's a necessary. And in being transparent, there's really no way around purchasing new cars. Whether it's 1 or 4 or 8, doesn't matter. We have to get new cars. This seemed to be the most viable option, and it comes with them taking the equity or giving us equity in what we have. If we do a partial program or a few cars here and a few cars next year, that equity is not a factor anymore. We don't get to count that.
So I'm guessing the equity they're gonna give us would be considerably more than, like you said, if we decide to go and try and sell our outdated vehicles on the open market, whether it be
Yeah.
auction or...
Yes, sir. I put our vehicles in through Kelley Blue Book, and what they were quoting us through Enterprise and what Kelley Blue Book says, very competitive. I think we should, I think we should probably take them up on it.
What was the prices? You remember any of them?
For the 2013, they're offering us about $6,500.
So that's good, because on the Texas fleet sales today, and they're selling all the DPS vehicles of the same years, and they're going for $2,000 to $3,000.
Yes, and the newer car like mine, even though it's a newer car, they're offering us almost $26,000 for that. It's a 2020, and it's only got 22,000 miles, but in Kelley Blue Book it was about 21,000. Even though the price of used cars are going up because of the availability issues with new cars, used cars are going up, but this is a different animal. It's police cars, and they're not very well taken care of, even if you're trying to take care of them.
They work for the Blues Brothers. I was noticing something else in here too, just kind of cool. I was just curious if you'd run any numbers on this. I was looking at the fuel economy. It looks like you're saying we get about 14-ish miles to the gallon on the current fleet, and we'll be getting closer to 22
Yes.
MPG with the Explorers.
Yeah,
any idea what that would do for our... obviously it's going to be less, but any idea what kind of percentage that would bring our fuel costs down to?
Well, I hesitate to do that with cost, because cost is going up. So fuel economy and mileage, that's about a 35 or 40% increase. And I'm using a number that is estimated by Ford. Not that I've checked or anything. I've gone through Ford to get those numbers. It's anywhere between 21 and 25. I just used the number 22 because it was somewhere in the median. What I got our numbers from is what we've used, and I got that off of the Valero website where we fuel our cars. So.
Any idea what the Tahoes are supposed to be getting, or is that about what they're supposed to average?
I think newer they were getting about 17 or 18, but it's not the best fuel mileage that you're going to get. Some of you received a packet in the back that's it's a white paper study, research paper done by a student at the Leadership Command College, which is an assignment that they have. This person selected to write about lease versus purchase on fleet vehicles. It's got some good information, and it's not the end-all be-all, hey, everything's gotta be a lease. There's some points in there for purchase. I think in our situation, because of our size, because of our funds, it's probably the best idea for us at this time is to make the lease program part of our program. If you break it down and towards page number 4 in the back, there's it talks about what that monthly cost is for all. If we got 10 vehicles at this lease program, it breaks down to about $8,000 a month. If you buy the vehicles, it's about $12,000 a month. So it's a little bit less of a hit. The problem with the lease program is there's interest on those payments. We don't pay tax, but there is interest because it's like a loan. So that extends the value or extends the cost of the car, but it's not all at one time. We don't have to write a check for $500,000. We make a monthly payment just like you would if you're purchasing a car.
What's the average day in one car? The life of one car during the day. How many officers drive that car per day?
At least, well, never more than 2. But those officers either work 8 or they work 12. So one guy gets out, another guy might drive it another 8, or he might drive it 12, or it might have been driven 12 and pick up another 12. It just depends on who's working and what day it is. No, sir. And if you took a brand new car and you did that to it, it wouldn't be a brand new car very long. It would be 2, maybe 3 years of that. We've only been doing that for about a year because the cars have slowly deteriorated, and we, sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down, and sometimes they're in the shop, sometimes they're on the side of the road. We've had to haul them back over here before. So it's kind of give and take. You can't do that to a car, and I would caution you against getting just 3 cars or just 2 cars or just 4 cars, because the same thing happens to those 4 cars. If we do 3 or 4 now and 3 or 4 next year, by next year the ones we buy now are going to be in bad shape because we still don't have that many cars.
Any further discussion? Huh? You have to read all of it.
I do appreciate your consideration of that. As the chief, it's difficult to watch your guys go out there and get into a car that I don't know that I'd be that comfortable driving some of them. The seats are eating up and they're just falling apart around them. So I realize it's a big thing to ask for this much money and this kind of an expenditure, but it's one of those things that you really can't avoid. So the program that we're trying to institute would replace what we have right now, and I think managing it through this lease program would be a better option than replacing 1 or 2 every now and then once they get to 100,000 miles or once they've been on the road for 9 years. That's not doable with cars being driven 24 hours a day. So thank y'all. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate all the work you put in that, TK. Thank you so much, man.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, TK, and just my recommendation for council is to have TK, go ahead and submit your final report to Brent for his review, and to put it on the next council meeting for action, to take action on it based on that, and so come back in front of council, we can read it and take action on it. Thanks, TK.
I have a question about that. You mean give him this? Because a lot of, if you're looking for a final report on what this is going to cost, they're not going to write that up until we sign on the dotted line. So
it's whatever you choose that you think is final for
okay.
Brent to, if it's this, that's fine.
Thank you.
All right. Go Astros. And it is 7:10. Meeting adjourned.